Hello and welcome, everyone. We'll be starting in just a moment. If you could, please leave a comment below. Our question for today is, how many lenses do you actually have? How many lenses do you have in your camera bag? And again, we'll be starting in just a few moments. So again, the question for today is, how many lenses do you carry or have in your camera bag? We'll wait for a few more people to arrive, and then we'll begin. It's always great seeing the regulars coming in. Hello, Ed. Again, we'll begin in just a few moments. The Hobby Hacker from England, rainy England. Here in Florida, it's a beautiful 75 degrees. Good, just a few more moments. And again, the question is, how many camera lenses do you carry or do you have in your bag? Raining and cold. All right, guys, well, that's about it. So, in this episode, we'll be starting just a few moments. Again, we're just doing a quick survey. How many camera lenses do you typically have or do you carry in your bag? All right, guys. And here we begin. Hello and welcome to another Luminar Coffee Break, where you ask the questions and we supply the answers. I'm your host, Vanelli, and I'm really excited about this episode because we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that's working with children. I absolutely love children, and I'm going to go through some of the tips and tricks that I've worked with on photographing children. So our topic today is kind of twofold. It's how to edit portraits of children, but I'm going to interject with some of the art of photographing children. All right. Now, before we begin, let's see. Hey, Rick Powell. Good. Good. And so what we did, we asked earlier. Let me move that down. And let me just make sure I have the right camera. Yep, I do. Yep. All right, just making sure I have the right camera here. The question I asked earlier is, how many lenses do you carry in your bag? How many lenses? Because I'm just curious on how versatile a lot of photographers are getting in. So, hello, Robert. Welcome. All right. So, now again, the topic is the art of photographing or editing children. So, now with that, before I begin, I want to mention just a real quick message from our partner, Fujifilm. They remind us to make images, share stories, experience moments at the speed of life with Fujifilm. Thank you for staying at home with us. So they've been a big help with us getting this off the ground. Now, with that, let me turn it over to this photo shoot. Now, what's kind of funny about this photo shoot is I actually was photographing the children's mother. So the mother was the one I was photographing. And when she went to change, the girls jumped on set and just started posing. So I asked the father if he wouldn't mind if I just snapped a couple of shots of the kids. The father was more than happy. When the mother, Wendy, came out and saw the photo shoot, she realized that she was done for the day and that the kids just won my heart. So what I want to do is, let's see if I have favorite ones. Yep, I did. So here's one of my favorite images that I gathered. Now, a couple things. When working with children, look how big my hand is, right? Some of you, like if my sister Maria were in here, I mean, they look beautiful. They're innocent. Kids just gravitate towards them. They love them. I look like Shrek. So when I work with these kids, I got to be careful because if I were to high-five them, said, here, high five, look how big that hand is coming at that little kid. So instead, what I do is I talk to the parents, and with the parents, I get familiar with them, and the children watch my interaction with the parents. We're high-fiving each other, talking, laughing, and then if I turn to the child, I'll put my hand down like this. Now it doesn't look intimidating. Little high five, and then we'll get into it, and that's how you start building a rapport. Because the moment you put them in front of that camera, you have maybe 10 to 15 minutes of working time with them. In fact, let's see if this gave me the time. Okay, so for this particular image, let's see, it's 12:23. So let me go. In fact, I'm just curious on this. How long did I work with the kids? So here's the very first image. And that was shot at 3:53. So let's go to the bottom. The little one was tiring out. So there's Dad. And, oh, we did a wardrobe change. So and there's Mom. So even with the wardrobe change, you were looking at maybe 25 minutes. So I worked with them for a very, very short time because they don't have a huge attention span. So the attention span, having children look at the lens. Okay, good. So, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So the attention span is not that high. Arrow Snapper, do me a favor. Text me or write in your first name. I keep calling you Arrow Snapper. So my buddy Arrow Snapper, his question was, what's the key to get the kids to look at the lens? Now, I'm going to be completely honest. This little girl here, that's an anomaly. I mean, I have no idea. What she was doing was mimicking her sister. So for her older sister, one of the key, what I do with the children is if they have an older sibling with them, I get the sibling to demonstrate first, and then the younger child just jumps right in and starts doing it. So in that case, that's how I got, for this particular photo shoot, how I got them, and they don't stand still. And so that's how I got the little girl to focus the way she did. All right? So let me get right into it here. So here we are. And by the way, photographing children is very similar to photographing pets. You have a very limited time to work with them. All right, so let's look at this. For children portraits especially, I really like to add a sense of like purity or wholesomeness. So, and again, I'm going to be completely truthful here. I didn't plan for this photo shoot, so this is a really bad photo. Look at, there's no catch light really in the eyes. The background looks beautiful because that was a Last Light high key, which is a 7-foot by 8-foot huge softbox with 2 lights in it. But notice the background here is too dark and there's no catch lights because the catch lights were meant for the mother, and look how high I had them. All right? So with that being said, let's fix this image real quick. Not something I like to do, but sometimes I have to. All right, let's go to Dodge and Burn. So one of the tools I'll use is to lighten the image is by burning or dodging, or well, actually burning. So this is an old technique that was used in the film days and it just carried over into the digital days. So I'm going to come in and just burn this in, and I'll use keyboard shortcut left or right bracket to control the size of the brush. If I go overboard, let's see if I go too much like this, I'll come up to erase and then just erase that section out. So everything, again, is non-destructive. Don't worry if you make a mistake. You can just go back and just repair it. I like where that is. And I'll do the same over here. Good. And by the way, if you're watching me say, wow, Vanelli, you're doing a great job with the mouse. I'm not. This is a Microsoft workstation. So it's touchscreen and I'm using a pen. I'm using my pen tool, which is a little dirty. I'm using my pen tool to come in and go around it to make it easier to mask, not mask, but easier to dodge and burn, all right? So do you need it? No. Will it make your life easier? Yes. All right. So I have all that set. Now what I am going to do is take the strength down, I don't know, about around 20, make the brush really large. And I'm just doing this just to be on the safe side. I'm going to go around and there we go. Well, it looks good. Done. All right. So here we are from before and after, and already it's starting to look better. So now I'm going to come up and do my typical, and I'm going to start doing my typical, starting out with AI accent. Ooh, look what that's doing. I like how it's making the dress and the bottom half look better. So one of the issues I know I have is the face, which we'll deal with in a moment. Now, ironically, this is a raw file. So one of our viewers made a comment and said, hey, Vanelli, maybe you should mention that every time you always start with AI accent. And yes, I do that because it's so much easier to enhance the color, detail, tone, and depth of the image. But don't forget, light is a development tool. So if I want to make sure I have the proper white balance, I can come here and select the white balance eyedropper. And I like to click just on the eye, just the white of the eye, and look what that just did. Look how it added color or added the proper white balance to the scene. All right? So looking at it, there's a little color cast. So we'll use the color tool. And I want to remove some of it without affecting her. So that's way too much. Right about there is good. While I'm here, let's see what happens if I bump up the vibrancy and tone down the saturation just a little. All right. And again, you'll find that I constantly turn the toggles on and off. This just gives me an idea of how the edit is going. Excuse me. All right, so I like it. Now I definitely need to add more light to her face. So let's jump over to the Portrait Enhancer tools. I'm amazed every time I use this tool. Look at this. So it's going to analyze the image, and it's using the AI technology, and it knows that this is a face. So I'm able to add light just to the face here. Then watch the eyes. Oh, look at that. That just brings life right to the eyes. And then I want to remove some of the dark circles. Now notice there's not a lot of contrast for her eyebrows. So let's improve the eyebrows. And this is going to add the contrast and bring those eyebrows out. Her lips are fine, but again, she's a little girl. So we can make them look a little redder. That looks nice. Good. Now, if I want, which I do, I want to add a few catch lights to the eyes. So let's go back to the Pro Tools. And I want to go back to Dodge and Burn. And using light, let's go at a smaller strength. And what I want to do is mimic where the top catch light would be. So the top catch light would actually be right up here. So I'm going to bring a little light here. Notice that little, we'll fix that in a moment. Good. And if I keep going over an area more than once, it's going to keep adding to it. All right. Now, that little line that just happened, I'm going to erase it. That happens because I have a tendency of putting my wrist down first. And in doing that, the pen has a tendency of making a weird line. Let's see. And I'm going to go right to the bottom. So typically with catch lights, you have one on top, one on bottom. Good. Now, it doesn't look like it did a whole lot, but watch this. Look at that. So let's come back to that. I think it's a little too strong. And again, here's what's so neat about our tools is they're non-destructive, meaning I can always go back and make changes to the image without affecting it. Or if I click on the history tool, I can see all the changes I've made. And if I don't like a change, I can just step back in time. All right, let's see. Before and after. Good. All right. Now, being a young child, we can get away with really smoothing the skin. She doesn't have any blemishes, so I'm really not concerned with that. Look at this. That is so nice. All right. All right, so what's it missing? For me, it's lacking some contrast. All right, so I want the hair to have a little more contrast. So once again, if I go over to the Pro Tools, to Advanced Contrast, I can start adding some contrast back into the skin. And notice, it's also adding the contrast to the hair. Good. Let's see what the midtones do. Nice. And what about the shadows? Nope, I'm going to leave the shadows. Yeah, I'm going to leave the shadows alone. Let's see if it makes a difference. Yep, it does, so I'll keep it. And I like that a lot. All right, so here's what we started with. And now, just with a few edits, we're going to add a little bit more life to this. Now, her mom didn't know she was going to be doing this shoot, so her nails weren't done. So let's come back over to the color tool, and I want to pinpoint that color, which is what? Yellow? And let's see. Oh, yep, good. I can change it. Let's move it here. Add a little more saturation to it. And bring out the luminance. Good, that looks better. Look at that. Just a slight little change. All right, so here we go. From beginning to here. Good. And let's see what my buddy Ed says. So Ed says, don't you think there's a little too much catch light in her right eye? All right, so her right eye, which is right here. All right, camera left or so in a case like this, yes, I do. I'm going to come up before we go to that step, Ed. Let's do our traditional. Bring everything back to zero, the amount, and go to between 50 to 70%. And if I go right about here to 80%, I like how that's looking. So Ed, what do you think about that now? Is it too much catch light in the right eye? So that's one way of doing it. Or, like he said, leave it at 100%. So that catch light in that eye, we know that we added the dodge and burn tool to it, right? So with the dodge and burn tool, I can start painting again. And this time, let's erase in a very small amount. Now, knowing I'm going to do that 50 to 75% rule, I'm still going to come in and let's erase just a little bit. Good. And let's check it again. There it is. Good. Now we go back to the very, very top. Dial it back to zero. So between 50 and 75%. But for this image, I'm going to go a little bit further. And 85 looks good to me. Thank you, Ed. So before and after. Now, we could do one more effect. I know what I'm going to do. I like how this looks, right? But it just doesn't look finished to me. So I'm going to come up to the layers palette. And so I don't mess with what I already have. I want to add a new adjustment layer. Then I like to experiment with some of the looks. Portrait always has some really cool looks. Now earlier today I used this exact same image, so I'm going to use the dreamy portrait effect. Ooh, look at that. I love everything it did here except what it did to the eyes. So we have two options here. So here's what it looks like. So I love the dreamy effect, but I'm not a fan of what it did to the eyes and the skin itself here. So I could come over here and use a layer mask and erase the effect, all of the effects on her face like this. And then for the eyes, I can go in and attack it at 100%. There we go. All right, so that's one option. And click done. So notice it's affecting everything except the areas I just painted out. All right, so that was one option. Or what I could do is I'm going to hide, let's see, the layer mask. This is what I'll do. I'll come back to the brush, mask, and I'm going to copy the mask. So now that I have the mask set, let's clear it and invert it. There we go. All right. So now I'm back to where we started. What I can do instead is come over here and just analyze What did the dreamy portrait add to this image? Well, it added light, or the different tools, color, and the vignette. Here's the culprit, glow. Oh, I love the soft glow. I'm going to turn it on and off. Sure enough, that right there is what's going to add to the issue of the eyes and the skin. So instead of doing a layer mask, I could use the tool mask, and same concept. I can erase, start out at 50%, and just erase the face, the effect it had on the face. And then on the eyes itself, move at 100% opacity. And adjust the eyes. Good. So now, when we apply the effect, it's less on the face and there's 0 on the eyes. All right. So let's see what else it did. I have a feeling it worked with the portrait tool too. And it did. Okay. So it added a little face light. Let's see if we need that. Nope, we don't need it. So I'm going to reset that. We don't need that tool here. Perfect. Good. Julie said, couldn't I just decrease the glow? Yes, but I love how the glow looks all around her. So I decreased it by actually erasing at a different percentage all the way through on the face. All right. So there we have it. Before and after. So guys, and what's really cool about this is you have time to experiment. And for this particular image, one thing I could also do, in fact, you know what? I'm sorry. One thing I could also do is come over here to vignette. Now it applied, I just noticed it, a dark value of the vignette. Well, look, if I bring it over to a positive, it's adding a white. It's adding white. And I actually like that better. So, but what I'm getting at is there's 1,000 different ways we can do these editing. The concept is what I'm trying to get at is when you're working with children, light, colorful, those are the types of things you want to add to these images. If you're photographing little children, putting, let's say a little boy, putting a really cool hat, like an old man type hat on him, that looks really cool. We did that with a friend of ours named Noah, and he looks so cool with this little bowler hat on him. With the little girls like this, yeah, if you add a little something that's adult to it, it makes her just look more child, like an innocent child, and that looks really cool. So those are just some tips. I like the white better as well. Thank you. So those are just a few little tips. And again, we can edit these any way we want, but the goal is to approach it from the perspective of what can we do to make this look innocent, full of life, full of energy, and there's your children's portrait. So, hey guys, thanks so much for joining me again. And your comments are extremely helpful, so please make sure you leave those below. And if you have ideas for suggestions for future episodes, please leave those in the comments also. Excuse me. And we'll try to work those in to our next coffee break. All right. Well, I'm Vinelli. Thanks so much for watching.